Welcome, everybody, to Mud Flood was Armageddon. The Mud Flood, the reset, was Armageddon. And after 1,000 years, there was a reaping. I teach it was 1711. Some other people teach other things, but there had to be, after the Mud Flood Armageddon, the reaping to get to the population where you are. You're a part of it. You're not a statistic. You are a true human. Feelings, emotions. You feel pain. You feel happy. You feel joy because you realize this is a spiritual world. The mud flood was Armageddon. Don't let anyone tell you anything else unless they're willing to bait you, willing to debate you in a fair and honest way. I would invite you to get out a pencil and paper, start taking notes like you used to in high school, like I hope you did in high school. My professors at university now, because the Lord has somehow worked it out where I gave everything away and he gave me an academic scholarship at a university, at least for this year. And the professors have to remind these younger students, where's your notebooks? How do you think you're going to remember these things? If you're not reading your Bible, taking notes so you can go back and look at it later, I think you're living a diminished life, but I'm happy you're here. RJ, I'm sure, wishes he was here. He has family concerns. I want to move right into whatever it is that I feel so good about because, I do 20 hours a week. I have a full time student, full time ministry. I have to do my own shopping, make my own bed, do my own laundry. But the inspiration keeps coming. You're going to want to have a pencil and paper with you right now, starting right now. I don't think I have very many pictures, if any, but we better look because this might help us navigate whatever we're going to run into here. Oh, okay. So 2019 earthquakes, decreasing rate of aftershocks, time after the main earthquake. That's not usually what I talk about, huh? So, but anyway, we had a 24-hour period where they've had, look at all these earthquakes in Taiwan. This is today. This happened today. I thought I had the date on there. So this was the aftershock. You know graphs. Well, here's normally what happens, and aftershocks follow. 429, 423, boom. 5 earthquakes in 24 hours that were over a certain magnitude. I guess the 5. So there's the microbiome. We're going to cover that tonight. We're going to be covering a lot of things about what's inside you. Are there living things that have life inside you? I believe there are. But let's start off and just go for it. Starting early tonight. Don't know how long this one's going to happen. I just stumbled on this one day ago. Maybe we could, I don't know if these audiobooks give copyrights. Let's read it. Distant dog, clash.
A mausoleum of human achievement, a testament to what happens when societal constructs fail and the baser instincts of survival override all else. Lucy, a young mother who had lost her entire family to disease and starvation, spoke up, her voice shaky. What are we even surviving for? There's no law, no order. Just this, she gestured around at the crumbling walls, this endless waiting for an end. It was a sentiment echoed in the hollow stomachs and hollow eyes around her. The concept of future had become a cruel joke, and death, once feared, was now courted as an old, inevitable friend. As the meeting disbanded, each returned to their solitary existences, fortifying their shelters not against the elements, but against each other.
Wow, trust had become the most valuable resource. No one spoke about rebuilding. Survival was the only agenda. Well, that just ended up in my algorithm today, and I'm thinking like I would have, played this, but why talk about the dawn of the, reclaimed of the United, and then puts like, oh, this is some version of a sexy woman. What is this, a Harlequin romance now, based on the theories that Mudflood was Armageddon? It's going to get bad, but don't worry, honey. Stay in shape, and I'll bet you everything works out at the end. I'm not going to do it. I want to look at the national interest. We all have heard, most of us have heard about Cardinal Richelieu, Catholic, in charge of a Protestant country. The Three Musketeers ring a bell. Everybody's shocked when they find out that the author, Dumas, was a black man, later was a general in Haiti and in charge of whatever happened there. National interest is a sovereign state's goals and ambitions. In parentheses, they're talking economics, your war-making machine, cultural ambitions. What are your cultural ambitions? Well, you either have a culture, somebody's trying to steer the culture in the national interest, taken to be the aim of the government. They want to know everything based on a book, The Reason of State. Even during the 1,000-year reign, when the wheats and the tares, there they were out there growing. Don't go in and pick up the tares when they just were planted, or you'll rip up the roots of the wheat. The loving Father knew better. First used in 1547 or 547, depending on what camp you're into. If you're wondering what camp I'm talking about, you probably don't know about the added 1,000 years to replace the 1,000-year reign of Christ, after which Satan must be loosed to go out and deceive the nations one more time. Gonna fly now. Yeah. The expression reason of state was championed by Italian diplomat and political thinker Machiavelli, that cruel fiend who thought a good government has to be strong, teach them a lesson. They learned that lesson when they developed the rubber plantations and the banana republics, where they would cut your hand off if you didn't meet your quota. They'd say, do you see how serious we are? We don't make us to have to cut your hand off. Make your quota, please. We don't want to have to cut your hand off, but we will. We'll cut your daughter's hand off if he, hey, they wanted to make them think they were serious. National interest. Within the field of human relations and international relations, national interest has frequently been assumed to comprise the pursuit of power, security, and wealth. Neo-realists, the new realist, and liberal institutionalist scholars, your Ivy League fill in the blank demeaning term that won't have you removed. Liberal scholars view national interest as an aggregation of the preferences of domestic political groups that somehow the government has manipulated. Look at that common good, nation state, public interest, like they really care. So bridge went out near us in Colorado. Update. They are going to open the road twice a day so that you can drive through the mountains. Where is it? Habla de Español. Now, the deal is that if you want to go around, because where I live, this is because one bridge went out. Do I have that address? I think I searched it. But it takes 7 hours. If you don't want to do it twice a day when you get the chance to go to work and come back, that's a pretty remote place and you have to travel to work. 7 hours. Now let's see. Okay, so what I did, this is the bridge. And it's in the middle of nowhere. Don't be fooled. That's not the Matterhorn Motel. My mouse is moving kind of slow. I'm not feeling good about it. But this is in the middle of nowhere. And that bridge crosses down here somewhere. And there's only one bridge. And if it goes down, you've got to wait. You got to go 7 hours the other way. Weird, right? And this is just one of those weird cities, Lake City on top of a mountain. This looks weird to me. This line here, that's not a ski slope. Those are trees. Maybe a big landslide. Maybe there's 2 telephone poles. Maybe it is a ski lift. But I don't remember that. Usually the skiing goes in this weird looking place. Where's Vale? But this thing's, I was seeing fractals. There's Lake City. I live down here in this town. And we're surrounded by these mountains that keeps, it's cold, but we don't get a lot of changes in the weather. Now, remember how we studied not fractals, what lenticulars, where that's what I was thinking of. There's some weird anomalies around here. Right? Doesn't that look weird? There's no towns or anything, just looks like a jigsaw puzzle or the outline of an organ of a giant titan. I'm just saying it's what it looks like. One more minute here. Let's see. Vale would be in here. Grand Mesa National Forest. Okay, Aspen. Aspen's got some weird stuff going on here. Freshwater reservoirs. One of the most expensive places in the world. Again, on top of a mountain, claims to be a residual of World War II, the 10th Mountain Division, 75th Mountain Division. And they're, you know, after the war, they knew how to ski, so they just said, let's ski. Here's a topic you don't hear discussed anymore. What's a man to do? There used to be a song, it's man's world, but is it?
On claim, but I think it's necessary to explore that a little bit. So I'm going to throw you guys under the bus. That was your comment, and I'm still mulling it over, but expand on that a little bit. Like how is that the case?
It's slavery because it ties the man to an outcome he has no control over. So you say, young man, take this woman and marry her, be committed to her for the rest of your life, have children, and at the end of the day, you're going to stand before God and you're going to answer for how you loved your wife, how you raised your children. However, you don't get any influence, any leadership, any power in that dynamic to actually change the outcome. So maybe he marries a good, godly, pious woman, and there would never be a situation that would ever come up where he'd have to say, honey, I think we're going to go this path. I think we're not going to do this. Another man could marry a woman that wants to put their children in public school.
Right.
And if you take from that man the authority, he has to sit back and watch as the mother of his children tries to send them off to public school, allow them to have influences that are bad to them. He's still responsible. You're in charge of this family. Look how bad that kid's turning up. But he's like, I can't even. She would flip out. She would divorce me if I try to take them out of the school that's influencing
I
them.
try and discipline him in a biblical way.
If I tried to take away his video game system,
that would be one example.
I'd be excoriated.
I know that it's controversial, and I want to be careful in the way that I explain.
I personally have an experience where I had passed the test to be a deacon at Lakeview Presbyterian Church, turned it down. One of the elders came to me, Larry Thady, Dr. Thady, and said, my son won't stop playing Minecraft. I said, well, unplug the computer and take it away. And he says, oh, I couldn't do that. I said, well, then your son's going to keep playing Minecraft. It's that simple.
But corporal punishment in the home, the Bible, you know, if you say, you know, spare the rod, spoil the child, you know, people say that's not, the Bible doesn't say that. You're right. That is not in the Bible. As a principle, you could interpret it that way. What is in the Bible is not spare the rod, spoil the child. What is explicitly in the Bible is the one who spares the rod hates his child. So if you're saying that's just a common misnomer, you know, spare the rod, spoil the child. Yeah, you're right. What the Bible actually says is stronger. And I pastorally have dealt with couples in marriages where the woman has held hostage the husband in his authority as a father, and has explicitly verbally threatened him multiple times, saying, if you spank our child, I don't care how loving it is. I don't care if it's perfectly aligning with the Word of God, because at the end of the day, the Word of God is precisely my problem. I hate the Word of God. If you spank our child and love our child according to what God defines as love, then I will call the police. And in our current law system, that man doesn't stand a chance.
She would call the police because as of that point, she could move on. She's proved her point. She'll have the son and half the house, and she'll teach him a lesson he'll never forget. We looked at Giovanni Battista Perenise earlier today. Yes, this is one of the double video days. Full-time job, full-time ministry. Getting out that mud flood was Armageddon message, because I wasn't called to be rich and famous. I was called to teach. And teaching means you teach every day as much as you can anyway. We're just going to look at some of his pictures and, you know. Well, that's a portrait of him. That's pretty intricate. We could probably go into detail if we're in a magnifying glass. Thanks for the small picture. The Round Tower. You can view this on 3D, but not on YouTube, but it gets copyrighted. But on the Internet Archive, somebody's 3D rendered this, and it's weird. It's Pretty weird. So he just etched these things out back in the day based on what he saw. Like maybe we could find one of these, or maybe they did find one of those. Etchity doodah. It's a flat earth nation, man. The golden age is past and everybody knows it. The very first plate, speaking that Latonian invention of the opera house, something of the guy. This is Giovanni. Is that him? Is that him up there? What are you doing up in the rafters, man? What's the year? Oh, 1757 or something. My mouse is not cooperating very well at all. So if I get frustrated, did I close that? That's all there was anyway. All right, let's move on. Oh, this is just music that shows a little bit more. So he just some random sketches on the top of his head, or did he discover these things and share them with other people? Saying, "This is what we found in our corner of the world. What have you got? Oh, we got this. We got that. We got this other thing. Here, it's engraved. Shields, ready for war. Muse, everything's covered in canvas plants. Golden alien. If you're orange, is that Moses? Nobody knows what that is.
1916 was a pivotal year. Woodrow Wilson stepped into the presidency with the promise, peace without victory. Sounds noble, right? But here's a twist. The general public, they were not really interested in the German war. It did not seem like their fight. But the government, they had other plans. They were all in for the war. So how do you get a nation on board? Enter the Krill Commission. Within 6 months, the Krill Commission had successfully transformed a peace-loving population into one that was practically baying for German blood. And who was?
Wow. Hey, did you see that? I mean, look at this guy. We're from Harvard and we couldn't be prouder. This guy's cheering, saying, no, wait, they're saying go to war. Look at the quality of this statue. Quite a picture. Soak that in. This is is this a hobbit? Anyway, this is supposed to be a rare George Carlin. Not always my cup of tea. He could be a setup too, you know, the first guy to say it, be famous all his life as the rabble rouser, but he did talk a lot of, you know, couple seconds.
Job in the world, bombing brown people. Iraq, Panama, Grenada, Libya, you got some brown people in your country, tell them to watch. The only ones, and the only reason for that is because they were trying to cut in on our action. They wanted to dominate the world. Bullshit, that's our fucking job. That's our fucking job.
Where do these nations even come from? What's going on? Deuteronomy 29, verse 18. Can we get any advice? Make sure there is no man or woman, clan or tribe among you today whose heart turns away from the Lord our God to go and worship the God of those nations. Make sure there is no root among you that bears such a poisonous and bitter fruit. Were they warning you about the acanthus plant? No, that's a healthy plant. Maybe those hedonist people were, oh, what's that guy's name? Epicurus, that he was a rational hedonist. If I eat well, I can go crazy and splurge more often longer than just go crazy, get fat, and die young. That's rational hedonism. The root that beareth gall and wormwood, in the commentaries, they agree that, it's a root of bitterness that is inside you. Yeah, I said I'd love, honor, and obey you, but make me. And some men, you're making it hard on the rest of us with, what's up with you guys that would strike a woman? You deserve to get what the Bible says you deserve to get. Hey, we always talk about this plant. It's coming up all of the time. This is another branch of the acanthus plant. I left it up. Does anybody know anything about the holly-leaved acanthus? The sea holly? The holly person grove? I just feel offended by calling it a mangrove. That's not very inclusive. Holy mangrove. Batman. Review. In first grade, they told you there's the globe. Photosynthesis is how plants grow, and that's all you need to know. Well, it's a very complicated process, ladies and gentlemen, and I just wanted to spend a few seconds, few minutes on it, biological process, photosynthetic organisms, plants, algae, cyanobacteria convert light energy. Wait, the light actually has the energy in the solar panel. It doesn't cause a reflection to heat or something like that. Light energy, typically from sunlight, into chemical energy necessary to fuel their activities. Photosynthetic organisms use intercellular organic compounds to store the chemical energy they produce in photosynthesis within the organic compounds. Sugars, like us. Glycogen, like us. Cellulose, well, I don't know. Starches, yeah. Metabolize. I've heard a lot of people, my metabolism's not right. I only eat 1,000 calories a day. Oh, okay. Well, then you'd lose weight and you're cheating. Bacteria, antioxidogenic. These things go on in our body too. It is quite they haven't got it figured out. They thought they did. First, photosynthetic organisms probably evolved early, you'd think. Maybe plants might need something, it's everything that they told you was so simple in first grade. Turns out, upon closer inspection, was an out and out lie that was the same methods they used to turn people who said, who cares about a war in Germany, to let's go kick that Hun butt. They can mold you and shape you unless you are addicted to the Bible, study it like they drink beer every day. Maybe you can do both, you know. I can't. I don't even want to try. I'm calorie conscious. What's this meanwhile? Wild hair up its ass is its own complete phrase, which I've been hearing my whole life. But nobody knows where it came from. You've got a wild hair. You know, so I can't. What am I supposed to do? Go, oh my goodness, RJ, I thought you weren't going to be able to make it today.
Well, when I got on, it was you were 111 seconds into the show.
Oh my goodness.
Almost 2 minutes, not quite. But
I thought that, you know, I came on early because I might go late tonight. And I figured since, you know, I didn't.
I just got home, you know, went.
Good deal. I got a lot of good stuff here coming up, man. How'd it go? How's everything going?
I have nothing to complain about. No, good so far.
My mouse is
So
all
far, so
goofy
good.
on me tonight, man. I'm trying to work this mouse and it's just messing me up. Dang, I hated that you were just waiting there.
No, I just taking it in.
Did it make you get a wild hair up your ass? Since last night I looked that up. I tried to find the origin. Nobody knows. It's not even one of those things that people would pretend to know.
Yeah.
You know, there was what was
Yeah, I've heard the expression.
Hey, what was the first animated feature to win an Oscar that wasn't made by Walt Disney?
Felix the Cat.
Wrong. It's A Wild Hare, the introduction of Bugs Bunny. It's called A Wild Hare. I didn't know that. But, you know, when you search a wild hare, here's what you get. It's the original one. Be very quiet. I'm hunting wabbit. That one.
So is this a Looney Tune?
It's a Warner Brother Looney Tune.
Okay.
Merry Melodies. I think it turned into Looney.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, Looney Tunes. 31. Shh, be very, very quiet. I'm hunting wabbits. Did you ever hear Bruce Springsteen do an imitation of Elmer Fudd?
I don't think so. But,
I'm driving in my car. I turn on the radio.
yeah.
A rare promotional broadcast loosely adapted on radio. What's up, Doc? Bob Clampett. You know, that's really all I got. Porky's here. Hunt.
But that's all, folks.
The golden age of Looney Tuning. Yuck. So, can anybody? What's going on with that? Note. Won the Academy Award thing. You know, was nominated. Something was nominated, but it lost to The Milky Way. Boy, they were really pushing it back in the day. The film,
with the colorization, yeah, for sure.
It was retitled The Wild Hare. Also during the quote, open quote, Guess Who sequence, Carol Lombard, that would be Carol Lombard, had to be redubbed since she was dead. She died in a plane crash, so they changed it to Barbara Stanwyck. Go crazy, people. You got cartoons about the wild hare. Nobody knew where it came from, but they assumed that something was up his butt. The Milky Way is a one real animated cartoon short. Maybe this is the one that won the the Oscar, directed by this famous director, co-produced by other, explore a dreamland where space is made up entirely of dairy products. For example, the Milky Way is made of milk. The moon is made of green cheese. If we ever wondered where that came from, the short won the 1940 Oscar. So excuse me, it was the Milky Way. Won the 1940 Oscar for Best Animated Short Film. It was the first non-Disney film to do so. Other shorts nominated in 1940 included A Wild Hare by Warner Brothers, introducing Bugs Bunny, another MGM cartoon, Puss in Boots, with Jasper and Jinx, the prototype of Tom and Jerry. This makes 1940 the first time that Walt Disney wasn't even nominated. Well, the Milky
That's pretty
Way.
good competition, though. You know, that was some.
They beat out the Bugs Bunny.
Then Associated Artists, they had like Popeye, and and Hanna-Barbera later was the Flintstones. You know, there's been pretty good competition.
Definitely with the Barney Rubble thing. That was some good stuff. Just for fun, the plot of the Milky Way, 1940 Oscar winner. 3 kittens denied milk as punishment for losing their mittens are playing out in the snow, sail up into the Milky Way in a basket lifted up by 3 helium balloons. Their space flight takes them past the moon, the planet Mars, the Big Dipper, and the Little Dipper until they reach their destination, the Milky Way. Once in the Milky Way, they find it a land of natural milk springs and geysers. The kittens proceed to happily gorge themselves on milk until they get into trouble and risk falling back down to Earth. I mean, sounds like a winner to me. What's the Milky Way? I've seen it in all its glory, on the top of the mountain, where it seems like you could put your hands in that crack and just pull it apart. It's the craziest thing. The Great Rift is also known as. This isn't the Wild Hare, this is the Milky Way. 1785, William Herschel. Somehow this made sense to him. I don't know. Fake. I don't know. Looks fake to me. Double fake. Super fake. Fakety doo da. Central bulge. They got it all figured out. It just doesn't, their explanations never match. Like, that's not what it looks like. So supposedly we are in the Milky Way galaxy inside the solar system, spinning, wobbling, flipping on this blue marble, what they call it, which cannot, convince you of that. You're going to have to be taught this one, that who would have guessed, finally, 2024, it's a barred spiral galaxy with a D25 isophotal diameter down to the kiloparsecs. Scotty, give me warp 5 and don't hold back the kiloparsecs. I'm only a doctor, damn it.
Yeah.
Oh man. They're so silly.
We'll never quit. Right.
There's a zone of avoidance in the Milky. You can't see it. It's obscured by the Milky Way. This isn't very biblical, but I'm just throwing it out there. They're supposedly, they got this thing figured out.
The land of zombies, huh?
It looks like a rock. It looks like somebody rounded off a rock and said, look at that rust belt. All right. Enough of that Milky Way stuff. Alopecia universalis is known as alopecia areata universalis. It's a medical condition involving the loss of all body hair, eyebrows, eyelashes, chest hair, armpits, pubic. Alopecia universalis. People with this condition are usually healthy and have no other symptoms and normal life expectancy, but our world is experiencing something new, autoimmune disorders. I don't know how new, but it seems to be growing, or the awareness thereof. RJ, you heard about it?
Yep.
Lyme disease, is that something? Epstein-Barr syndrome. Sometimes that. I had a sister-in-law, and she had it. It lasted, 2 or 3 years, and they had a little bit of money, so they could have one of those hyperbaric chambers, but she couldn't take care of the children. It was bad. And then it just went away.
Got over it.
She's just like, after 6 months, it was like, same woman. Nothing happened, perky, fun. These autoimmune disease, this is crazy because it can give you arthritis, and man, nobody wants that. I wear the copper. I have arthritis and stenosis, but I do everything I can to keep it at bay. It's a full-time job almost. The autoimmune diseases, you hear about Graves' disease, bulging eyes happens when you take Synthroid for too long, because women have been sold a lie that if they take Synthroid, they'll drop 10 pounds. Very bad.
Maybe.
Gluten. This is why people don't eat, gluten. This is an autoimmune disease. It's getting worse and worse, so they say.
Yeah,
It's
generally through the wheat ingredient, but there's
the pesticide resistant wheat and corns have a thicker shell that normally used to be so thin it wasn't even a part of the meal, and your body could just pass it through. But now that shell is so hard and thick to keep the boll weevils and the bugs out of it, people have a hard time digesting it. Somehow it makes them where they can't drink milk. Honestly, I had one daughter that was claiming lactose intolerance. Her mom doubted it. But psoriasis, rheumatoid arthritis, multiple sclerosis, all of these seem to be growing, kind of like the excess deaths.
Kind of, the GMO of it, or
they modified it.
Right.
Just to refresh your memory on the microbiome, and that almost looks like a doggone acanthus plant. It almost does. Can't tell with just the one berry there. A shift of paradigm from microbiomes as unsocial organisms causing disease to a holistic view of microorganisms as the center of the One Health concept interconnecting all areas of human life. They won't believe me, but maybe they'll believe the Wikipedia. But if you're in a temple and these things have life inside you, why should we think they're all bad? And that if, your tattoo got infected or your nipple ring got infected, just take another round of antibiotics, you'll be cleared up in, well, it used to be 3 months, now it'll be 4. I'm not, as long as the Lord has me in front of a microphone or even in person, I'm going to be telling people, you got to care about your microbiomes. Believe me, it is synthesis that you seek. You want to be not a parasite. You want to be symbiotic. It's the opposite of being a parasite. We are in a dance of life until this body is changed, and the spirit that you are connecting with now, your thinking, your knowledge, it's all true. No cheating. Doggone it. Cheating is a term used in behavioral ecology and ethology to describe behavior whereby organisms receive the benefit at the cost of other organisms. Cheating is common in many mutualistic and altruistic relationships. A cheater is an individual who does not cooperate but can potentially gain the benefit from others cooperating. Cheaters are also those who selfishly use common resources to maximize their individual fitness at the expense of a group. Brother, don't they sometimes, it's not enough that they drink clean water. They want to muddy the water for the people that they've proven that they're better than. Maybe something?
Yeah, by cheating, look at me, so to speak.
Right. Vote for me.
Not that cheaters generally want to get caught. You want to be in the background, but have gotten there without the necessary work or effort, I guess.
That reminded me of something. We didn't know each other during the Sammy Sosa, and who was it? Mark McGuire, the home running contest. Remember that?
I recall some of that.
Yeah, they did. That's when steroids were coming out, but all of a sudden they were ignored because the union, the Major League Baseball players, they had a strike, and people said, "Well, that's it." Football was already becoming way more popular, so they just were giving up. And the next thing you know, steroids were kind of like looking the other way, and these guys were hitting home runs. It ended up with Barry Bonds hitting over 70 in 1 year. But at Christian Liberty, there were the Cub fans, and then there were the White Sox fans. And when the Cubs had Sammy Sosa and he was hitting all those homers, it was hard on the White Sox fans. But then one night, we were watching a game, and his bat exploded, and a bunch of cork came flying out the end, and he was caught cheating. It's just like, and you know what the excuse was? Well, sometimes he likes to use that bat in batting practice to thrill the crowd, and he just grabbed the wrong bat.
Sure. Honest mistake.
Happens, but baseball was back. Home runs were back. People started doing steroids. I remember one guy, I think his name was Brady Anderson. 1 year, he hit like 2 home runs 1 year, came back next year. He was like the Hulk. He hit 40 home runs, and it was like new man. Cheaters. Dirty dog cheaters. They got theoretical models. I mean, why do they have to make it so hard? Policing, punishment in other organisms, aggression and punishment are not only found in insects. For example, in naked mole rats, again with the naked mole rat thing, punishment by the queen are a way she motivates the lazy or less related workers in their groups. The queen would shove the lazier workers, with the number of shoves increasing when there are fewer active workers. Wow. Man, no slacking on the job with a good queen. Huh? Honestly, I don't remember this. Oh, stilt roots. I wanted to. Stilt roots. You ever heard of that? That's weird.
No, I'm not familiar with it.
The skeptical inquiry. Somehow, these stilted roots, they had my attention for a little while, and maybe it'll come back because they're palm trees, and the way they, can grow and then propagate later. It's a very good creation thing, but we got to move on. The more tree stuff. Mangrove. Okay. All right. That one Leah, she wanted to get some mandrakes from Rachel. I want some of those mandrakes your son was digging up, and so I can sleep with your husband tonight or something. What was that one, RJ?
Yeah, that's what they negotiated.
You know what it reminds me of? Let's just do a segue here. I wonder if they have a Wikipedia page on a cat man. You would make a good cat man if they do. The
Yeah,
Bear
they
Dam.
do.
I've been to one of these, maybe two. Bear dance is a Native American ceremonial dance that occurs in the spring. It is a 10-day event to strengthen social ties within the community, encourage courtship, and mark the end of puberty for girls. For the Utes, it is a 10-day event of dancing, feasting, games, horse racing, and gambling. It is one of the oldest Ute ceremonies. Huh. If the girl shakes her shawl at you at a bear dance, you have to dance with her that dance or leave. You are welcome to leave or dance. And they just flip their shawl at you. So they don't mention the Catman. Maybe they mention it down here. Anyway, his job is he has a stick, and if they aren't dancing, like, hey, you're just going through the motions. He'll give
Cheating?
he'll give him a swat on the butt with the stick. Say, come on.
Pick up the pace?
This is a tribe dancing for a reason. We don't need you sleepwalking. Yeah. One more chance.
That'd be take one for the tribe instead of the team, huh?
Yeah, and the drumming is a big part of it too. I tell you, I enjoyed my time around Olathe and Montrose. I'm enjoying Alamosa, when I get a chance to visit it. These were the people that were the last survivors, the last known Indian nation that hid, and then were finally discovered and rubbed out after 1880. But they were the last ones, and they were where I am, and this was their holy mountain. And they had catmen that, hey, you're not dancing. Come on. I mean, they didn't hit him over the head or anything. See this man sitting here? This is Chief Ure, his wife Chipita. He unfortunately got tricked into signing a contract where he represented all of the chiefs of all of the Utes, where he was only one chief of one tribe. And there are so many. I used to do shows from the Ute Museum when I lived in Montrose. Compadre. Isn't that a funny way to pronounce that? That GH is always funny. Compadre. This is where you visited, RJ.
Yeah.
Don't tell me that a Nike shoe is better than somebody that spent a week making this. This is a pipe bag, but if they wanted to make a moccasin or something, it's going to be better. Now, these rattles, the Ute buffalo rawhides, were the first ever known use of mechanoluminescence. Mechanoluminescence. That means when they shake them, the quartz make light.
Illuminates.
They illuminate. Kind of like the spark of life you like so much. Is this that? Where's that video that they had that spark of life thing? Somnoluminescence. Sonoluminescence. The emission of light from imploding bubbles when excited by a sound.
Oh, that's like star in a jar.
That's what I was kind of hoping for. And so their rattles would light up at night, And if that wouldn't make you want to dance, what would?
Yeah, shake your money maker, yeah.
Did the Battle of Fort Necessity, wanted to look and introduce, for some people maybe, the Glass-Steagall legislation. Brother RJ has a thing for the Banking Act of 1933. Well, the Glass-Steagall Act was 1932, so it's going to have to be good enough, I hope, but it wasn't really passed. The legislation describes 4 provisions of the United States Banking Act of 1933, separating commercial and investment banking. What's the difference? I mean,
What, calling in all the gold?
which one is for the normal people, commercial or investment?
I'm not certain with their terminology.
Right.
Then is the vault half empty or half full? Yeah.
It's like your glass. The separation of commercial investment banking prevents security firms and investment banks from taking deposits and commercial Federal Reserve member banks from dealing in non-governmental securities for customers, investing in non-investment grade securities for themselves, underwriting or distributing non-governmental securities, affiliating with companies involved with such activities. I wonder why people would want to repeal it. I wonder if it didn't work or what. Let's just get to the decline. So not long after it happened, it was not until 1933 that the separation of commercial and investment, I think stocks and bonds, were considered controversial. there was a belief that the separation would lead to a healthier financial system. As time passed, however, the separation became so controversial. In FDR's first term, Senator Glass himself attempted to rebuild the prohibition on direct bank underwriting by permitting a limited amount of bank underwriting of corporate debt. That's like the camel's nose under the tent or something. Is that where the debt started? That the other guy said, Maynard Keynes, spend all the money like you got it. And these guys said, well, then let's repeal that other thing, you know?
Yeah, literally, there's nothing to see here.
Yeah, and nothing to stop us from, hey, corporate debt, government debt.
Huh? It's
Oh
a
my
big
goodness.
zero.
What's tomorrow going to bring, you know? Hey, Randy, I did go talk to that girl. Remember that helped Arturo, and she's a veteran helper, you know, here in town. She thinks, you know, yeah, she thinks I'll be able to stay in school. So I do got a new plan of action and stuff like that. We'll talk.
Does
Yeah, it's still
her
waiting.
2 cents, does that account for anything, or opinion, or that's
Well, she from this university, she's gotten 3 degrees and 2 masters, and she knows some of the people, and she filled me in on a lot of things like, well, they might already be in trouble and being investigated. Still back to that Beverly McClure stuff. So they're tight-lipped because they don't want to say anything to anybody. I just noticed there's a dyslexic moment. Look at all these things with citation needed. Here they didn't even, citation needed. Look at this sarcastic, well, whose? The perception is whose? That Glass-Steagall Act created a sense of accountability. Well, here's the repeal. There was a financial crisis. Some people, I lost 1/3 of my equity, but it didn't bother me. I mean, I had already practically paid the house off. But there was a big financial crisis. Some commentators argued that the repeal of these sections had played an important role in leading to the housing bubble. Well, I wouldn't be shocked if they're correct. I really wouldn't. I think they got something right. I think that this did lead to it.
cause and effect, or that's what'd you say, the unintended consequences?
Yeah. It was they pretend it's unintended consequences, right? When they shrug their shoulders.
Yeah, they're gonna siphon off as much as they can.
Yeah, they go like, well, will you forgive me? Well, sure we will. You're too big to fail. You come here, you lovable little investment banker. I want to give you a great big hug. It's okay. Hey, I learned a new word today. Kalia is Kali. Subjective conscious experience. Instances, plural. Subjective conscious experience. It's a Latin word. Meaning of what sort, of what kind? In relation to a specific instance, such as, what is it like to taste a specific apple? This particular apple right now. Wow, that's weird. You ever hear that question, or what's that taste like? And it either tastes like chicken or it tastes like a banana, Well, follow-up question. Well, what's a chicken taste like? It tastes like what you're eating right now, it's hard to describe some things, right? Well, this is where the rabbit trail, the Ivy League intelligentsia, and the people who defend the peer reviews were there's proponents, there's critics, there's arguments, many definitions that have been argued about since 1866, and they're just honestly, it has only been the most important thing in the world for them to figure out, are interpersonal comparisons of Kalia, are they systematically impossible, or can people really sit there and think of something? If so, how does that work? It's Kalia. They just don't know. The inverted spectrum thought experiment, originally developed by John Locke, the maniac that brought the Enlightenment and, took God out of the equation while trying to act like you include him, but it doesn't. He invites the reader to imagine that they wake up one morning and find out that for some unknown reason, all the colors in the world have been inverted, i.e., swapped to the hue on the opposite side of the color. Red would be green and green would be red. Would that blow your mind? What would you think? Kalia. The argument claims that if we find the inverted spectrum plausible, we must admit that Kalia exists. Some philosophers find it absurd that armchair theorizing can prove something to exist. And the detailed argument does involve a lot of assumptions about conceivability and possibility, which are open to criticism. Perhaps it is not possible for a given brain state to produce anything other than a given quail.
Is that like the LGBTQ alphabet soup thing, or
is this just some rabbit-trailed, harebrained nonsense like the gloating, floating, wobbly ball? Citation, failed verifications. Why is the sky blue, Daddy? Shut up, or I'll beat you with a ironing cord. Hedonism. That's from a song. What's that guy's name? He did a hello, lay-lo. He's really a weird. Take a walk on the wild side. That guy. Anyway, it was a weird
Lou
song.
Reed?
Yeah, Lou Reed. Yeah, it was like it's like be quiet, or he says. So I was quiet because nobody wants to get beat with the ironing cord. That's like in his song. It's like, wow, that was a tough neighborhood he was living in. Hedonism refers to the prioritization of pleasure in one's lifestyle, actions, or thoughts. Hedonism. What? You ever hear that one?
Not.
They only want pleasure. They think that life is only about pleasure or pain solely. You should either avoid pain, seek pleasure. Hedonism itself refers to the prioritization of pleasure in one's lifestyles, actions, and thoughts.
Okay.
The term may include a number of theories and practices across philosophy, art, and psychology, encompassing both sensory pleasure and more intellectual or personal pursuits. Hedonism, maybe, there are those people out there who like say, I want to spend all my money and ride around dressed up like a knight in shining armor. And then there's other people that collect moths or butterflies and pin them on a wall. And then there's the sexy, freaky shit, that we don't need to get into. But or eat as much as you want, be a glutton. I think that's what it is. Pleasure plays a central role in all forms of hedonism. It refers to experience that feels good and involves the enjoyment of something. Pleasure contrasts with pain or suffering, which are forms of feeling bad. Is the AI getting worse and worse at writing or what? More naked people, please, that we don't get enough studying it in a Bible show. Psychological hedonism, also known as motivational hedonism, is an empirical theory about what motivates us. It states that all actions by humans aim at increasing pleasure and avoiding pain. Thomas Hobbes, Calvin and Hobbes, the man they were talking about when they made that joke, theorized that a person's ego, don't let go of my ego, that's my waffle, no, that's an ego. Ego was the primary impulse in determining behavior, whatever ego is. Go ahead, Randy.
Well, yeah, I can see where the avoidance of physical turmoil or whatever, whether pain, inflicting pain or whatever. I don't know if that the automatic is, I need more pleasure stimulation or something, because you can't be content with just pain free. Yeah, you have to take it the scale the other direction. But that if that's what they're selling, I'm sure, yeah, someone's gonna buy it. Actually, a lot of people probably buy it, but
Yeah, there was even a move of Christian hedonism,
I suppose, yeah.
So, verse 15, Acts chapter 9. Go, said the Lord. This man is my chosen instrument to carry my name before the Gentiles and their kings and before the people of Israel. I will show him how much he must be a hedonist for my name. Oh, that's suffer for my, how much he must suffer for my name. Any commentaries? Everybody like Matthew Henry, he's pretty non-controversial, I think. My wife's favorite. He's easy to read. A good work was begun in Saul when he was brought to Christ's feet with those words, Lord, what wilt thou have me do? And never did Christ leave any who were brought to that. Behold, the proud Pharisee, the unmerciful oppressor, the daring blasphemer prayeth. And thus it is even now, and with the proud infidel or the abandoned sinner, with happy tidings are these to all who understand the nature and power of prayer, of such as the humble sinner presents for the blessings of free salvation. Blah, blah, blah. Show him how great things he must suffer. Cambridge, the Holy Ghost witnessed in every city, saying that bonds and afflictions abide me. That's King James Version right there. A lot of times.
Yeah, and he prayed, yeah, what like a thorn in his side, but he said his grace was sufficient.
Acts 14:22, strengthening the souls of the disciples and encouraging them to continue in the faith. We must endure many hardships to enter the kingdom of God. Wow.
Well, that was then, and this is now. So that was.
There's a paradox of hedonism, also called the pleasure paradox, refers to practical difficulties encountered in the pursuit of pleasure, especially in our generation when you got no money. For the hedonist, constant pleasure seeking may not yield the most actual pleasure or happiness in the long term when consciously pursuing pleasure interferes with experiencing it. The utilitarian philosopher Hank Sedgwick was first to note in the Method of Ethics that the paradox of hedonism is that pleasure cannot be acquired directly. Variations on this theme appear in the realms of philosophy, psychology, and economics. They will not miss a chance to throw out John Stuart Mill, political, economic, and political, civil servant, liberal, most influential public speaking person ever. Friedrich Nietzsche, the Ubermensch, God is dead and man must deal with his ticking clock by being a man. And that includes denying God. And men don't need God. Alfred Adler, another influential people. These are all of the people that matter because that's how they like it. That's what this was for.
The better known ones. Yeah, there's plenty of others that probably fall into the same category. I see we're pushed over 75 minutes here.
Right. So that really does wrap it up. I'm going to be looking into kidney beans and trying to tie it into a couple of rocks that I think I have. Throughout history, kidney beans have held significant symbolic, ritualistic importance. And I think I have found star forts that look like them. Again,
anything happen. What she's describing here usually leaves people impaired for life. So all I can think is this is a miracle. Yahweh truly has heard the cries of his people.
Jack needed hospital treatment for that injury. She is doing well now.
She got stabbed in the eye, but she's okay now.
She is doing well now, which we're happy to say. She joins us now.
So I looked up the original article that she wrote. That was yesterday, April 21st. I'm recording this Monday, 22nd at night. So this just happened in the last 2 days, and she already made it on television to tell her story. There's a major media push right now to remind everybody who the good guys are, because evidently students are having campouts at all kinds of different universities right now.
What's going on in the world, RJ?
The wheels are coming off the cart, I think.
The classic rants are fewer and far between. Because let's face it, can I get triggered? Oh man.
Probably.
Oh man, I can get triggered. It was a pleasure that you were able to join, RJ. That was such a pleasant surprise. Stick around if you can. I'll fill you in a little bit on what I know now.
And I can explain some of what I cluttered your inbox with.
Okay, because I had them pulled up, and I don't know how I didn't get to them. An hour and 20. I was, who knows.
Oh yeah, I had sent you quite a bit.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's a flat Earth nation. The golden age is past. That includes the reaping, also the reset in 1711. Don't let them tell you anything else. We'll never tell you anything else. Why would we? We're trying to prove we have your best interest at heart. Amen. Hallelujah. Aho, aloha, arrivederci, ciao, sayonara,